Hi, I'm Lizabeth,
And I'm Cindy.
and we're here with another feeding frenzy for A Course in Weight Loss, and we are on lesson 10.
Finally, consecrate your body. This one was about, do you remember? It's about us,
Looking at your day.
right, and writing down what we usually do when we wake up, have breakfast, morning activities, lunch, afternoon activities, dinner, and evening activities or hours. Supposed to write down what we do now,
Right.
and then write another version of what we would like to do.
Right.
So tell me about that. How was it?
This was probably the easiest exercise we've done thus far.
Good.
Just simply because I'm doing what I want to do every day now.
Good.
And besides, a little tweaking here and there, then I'm good.
Well, good.
I'm
So
really
it's going to be
good
a
right
short
now.
video then, huh?
What about you?
I felt the same. I did ask myself, I thought, okay, I think the purpose here is to add more love into our schedule and add more love into our day and make it more about our purpose of love.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked, where can I put more love into my day? Or how can I show more love?
Mm-hmm.
And I too found it fairly easy because I feel like I'm already doing that. I feel like, that's not specifically the question I've been asking, but in a way that's a question I've been asking myself a very long time. What would make me feel good about every day?
Mm-hmm.
And what should I be doing that makes me feel that way all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I both have designed our lives the way we want them to be. And I've been doing this a long time.
And I think we're serving as many as we possibly can right now where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't find this one far-reaching, and I didn't have to really dig deep. Now I did sit with it for a little while and see if it's still serving me where I'm at. And yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm. I asked my question, are there certain things I want to get rid of or do away with that are happening now? And there weren't many of those either. I mean, most everything I've dealt with as far as people or places or things that are in my life that aren't needed anymore or aren't serving me, I should say. And I think I've designed it pretty much the way I want to. Now, I will say that doing this exercise today would be a lot different if I were doing it 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I didn't do this specific exercise, but I did exercises similar to this, to sit down. I can remember when my oldest was a baby and not being happy with my life. He was sick and I was working full time and I was driving an hour to work and having to leave him at daycare, and I was miserable. And I pretty much did this. I took a couple of days off from work and I went to the park and I sat down and I wrote down everything I wanted to happen in my life.
Did you really?
I did. And set some goals and figured out what it would take to get me there.
Mm-hmm.
And
how
within
long did it take you to manifest that?
2 years.
Did it?
Well, not quite that long. It was probably a year and a half, because on the day my second son was born was my last day at that job.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been home with them ever since, except with a few minor exceptions. I had to get a job, but I was home from then on if I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed everything. I watched the movie The Secret, and they talk about the vision boards and the visualization and how to manifest those things. And that's exactly what I did long before The Secret was ever around. I sat down, I wrote down everything I wanted, even to the cell phones and the cameras and the stuff I needed to do what I wanted to do.
Really?
And that was before cell phones even really existed,
Yeah.
except for big, huge ones.
Yeah.
Every one of them, I found that journal a year or so ago and looked at it. Every one of them had come true.
Had they really? Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So doing it then was a lot different than doing it today.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was more of an emotional thing then, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot more drive to get it then. Today, I've already been through that at least that once,
Yeah.
many more times after that. And I pretty much designed it the way I want it. So it was.
So that's a good place to be.
It's a very good place to be.
It really gave me peace knowing that what I set out to build a year and a half ago has truly come to pass.
Right.
It really has.
It has.
So it feels good to be in this space. Now, I wasn't always in this space. And I was willing to look at it and see if I still wanted to occupy the same space. It still serves me. And right now it does. Now that may change tomorrow, but right now it does.
Right. So looking back on it, you said a year and a half ago, let's think back to 2 years ago. Did it seem impossible then? Did it seem like a pipe dream or something that you just couldn't get your mind around?
No, it didn't seem impossible because I'd already opened my mind to the possibility. So it didn't seem impossible. I just had no clue how. No clue how. Didn't know what step to take. Nothing. So I was literally felt like I was flying blind. I knew I was not happy in the job that I was in. And I knew I was stealing someone else's job because I had lost the flavor for it. It lost its savor. And all I knew was I wanted to make a change, and I wanted to be at home more, especially with my kids. Didn't have a clue how that was going to happen.
So what would you contribute as the biggest thing you did to make that happen? I mean, how did that happen? How did you get to where you want to be?
I started looking at, okay, then what is it I want? And once I started listing what it was I wanted, then the next thing would come up. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't until I started making the list of what I wanted. Because when I started making the list of what I wanted, it wasn't even complete.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I just had in mind 2 or 3 things. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to get this ball rolling, I've got to start somewhere. So I started with the 2 or 3 things that I knew. I knew I wanted to stay home. I knew I did not want to be out in this weather all the time. And I knew that I wanted more control over my schedule. That was the only 3 things that I knew in the moment that I started. But that was enough to get started.
Right.
So I listed those 3 things. And once I listed those 3 things, I sat down and really honestly and in prayer said, okay, how am I going to make this happen? What can I do now, or what do I need to change about me in order to make this happen?
Yeah.
And whatever came up, it was the next step that I followed.
Wow.
And then now that I look back, I see that it was a path that I walked, but I didn't see it then.
Right.
It was a path. All I knew is I wanted to be home more. I wanted more control over my schedule, and I wanted to be out of the elements. And I left the rest up to God. And literally, now I had to fine tune as I went along.
Right.
Right. But it's worked out perfectly.
So I think it reminded me of the fire walking. You just got to take the first step. Take the first step, and the rest will fall into place. You know how to get off those coals once you get up. So take the first step. And the first step, I think, in for both of us, was writing it all down. Writing it all out and visualizing it. Seeing it the way we want to see it.
Like you said, when I first started this, I had no idea what I wanted my day to look like. I really had no idea.
I couldn't fathom it. It was so different from what I had. I just knew what I didn't want. And when I started listing what I didn't want, then I could use the opposite of that to see what I did want.
Right.
I didn't want to be driving to work, so therefore I wanted to stay home. I wanted to spend time with my kids, So it was a life-changing thing to sit there and really list everything I wanted, even though it did seem impossible at the time. But it was fun, and ever since then, magical things have happened.
Oh yeah. And that's our first step in goal setting. Is to just list what you think might be possible. Is a goal. It really is. Whether or not I could see it as being attainable didn't matter in the moment. It was just a goal. And I remember sitting in that mail truck, freezing. My fingers had already been frostbitten, and I was not getting feeling into them, and I still had half a day left to go. And I remember sitting there, crying, saying, God, I don't want to do this anymore. Please show me the way out. I'll put in my effort. I'll do what I need to do. But I don't want to do this anymore.
But you know what else I think is important is that for me, and I'm assuming you did the same thing, I made that list of things I wanted, but then I figured out a way to get closer to that. Maybe not to get there. I couldn't figure out the whole how. But I figured out what's my first step. And for me, the first step was to get some extra money coming in so that I could get some bills paid off so I wasn't attached to that job. So I took up another part-time job doing, I think it was bills, I was doing payroll for the daycare center where Matthew worked. And
where Matthew was.
Yeah, where he worked, where he was staying. And I would, I would do it at home, but I would go in every day when I picked him up, and I would get her payroll stuff, and I would take it home and do it on my free time, which there wasn't much of with a new baby and a job an hour away.
Yeah.
But I did what little I could. And it just seemed like everything started working with me.
Yes. Yes.
Because I took the first step and made the decision to stay home as soon as I could get the bills paid off.
Yes.
And at the time, my husband, I told him I wanted to quit, and he was freaking out. But he said, okay, if you can get all these bills paid off. I was determined to get them paid off. And I did. It took a while, but I got them paid off. And the one step I did was just to get that little part-time job to pay some extra on the bills. So it's taking that first step, and it's also figuring out your own how until everything joins in.
Well, it did. And, when I listed those three things on my what am I going to do with my life list, I wasn't calling it a goal list back then, but what am I going to do from here? When I was listing those three things, I did the same thing. All right, what can I do today to get a little closer?
Right.
Even if it was just get done a little quicker today, so I'd had time to make a phone call, or what I'm saying, just one small step.
What can I take to forward this?
And like you said, the universe just came in after me, and just made things fall in line.
Right. Then once I got that first bill paid off, then I could put that extra onto the second bill, and so on. And so it took about a year and a half, but the day my second child was born, I didn't work again. So it seemed impossible a year and a half before that.
So this was a wonderful exercise in the beginning of goal setting, mapping out what you want your day to look like.
Yep, I agree.
So it was a wonderful exercise. Now I have right now my day exactly where I want it to be. Now I didn't a year and a half ago.
Right.
I was still in these planning stages, but this is a great exercise in the beginning of the goal setting, which is incredibly important.
Being on this side of it, this was a great exercise to look back and say, wow.
Look what we did.
Look where we came from. Yeah. Look what we've accomplished without even realizing it, So it was a real ego booster for me to say, wow, look what God did.
Well, and I don't know about you, but it gives me more energy to look at where I want to be from here.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing that in this small amount of time, I can do this because I've already done it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff.
Shrink.